Enough for David Hamilton.
Enough, not enough, enough, not enough.
He's not well enough to get a job, not sick enough to qualify for disability benefits, doesn't earn enough to get permanent low-income housing, not old enough for Medicare.
Not enough, enough, not enough.
He's not pessimistic enough to set up housekeeping in a tent instead of just sleeping summers under a bridge, not angry enough to raise hell, not brokenhearted enough to give up. His goal is still to either get disability or a job, whichever comes first.
Enough, not enough, enough, not enough.
When he's finally taken in by a local temporary housing program, he can't see far enough into the future to know that in a few months' time, the house they put him in will have his name written on it. It will be called Hamilton House in his honor after he dies from the complications of a weakening heart. It will bear his name perhaps forever, this place where he will never again live. So it was very moving to us and often painful to observe how people were struggling to survive. And we observed how they survived not just physically, but also emotionally. And regarding the latter, that often confronted my stereotypes about homelessness, because I would see people using very creative strategies and being very playful sometimes in an attempt to add lightness to their days or the quality of life to their situation. And I think my stereotype of a homeless person would be that they would be so low energy they wouldn't do something like that, or they would just be sad and depressed all the time and use every ounce of energy for that next bite of food or to scrape up $1 to get something that they needed. So it was surprising and encouraging to see people being playful and striking up relationships, though we also did observe tensions between some people and there was territoriality about the canning. But for the most part, we did see camaraderie there at the Daily Bread Soup Kitchen, and the director of that kitchen, she was always saying people come here for a lot more than food. But we often thought about why a core group of people that we got to know pretty well, why most of them remained stuck in the bottom rungs of the poverty cycle, with a couple of exceptions, in spite of the fact that there was this great network of social services agencies in the county. And one of the things I got to thinking about, something I observed over time, was that a lot of people said that they felt invisible to the rest of the community, to the mainstream society, and that sometimes that made them want to be invisible. And this would happen, of course, after they've lost jobs and homes and relationships and possessions, and so then not feeling so good about that and that situation, and then trying to get to social services agencies to fill out forms and put something together, put an outfit together to wear to a job interview or try to just find a job. It became that much harder when they felt unwanted or not accepted in some way. And so I got to thinking that this side, the emotional side of things, the way they felt about themselves is really a large part of why people stay stuck. And the next piece I'm going to read addresses some of these issues of feeling invisible, and it's called Anonymous. The steps of the soup kitchen are crowded with your ample form and chatter. I hear you say you got yelled at today for digging through a dumpster. I think I may have seen you here before. Nobody notices us, you say. Nobody helps us. As soon as the people get out of church, they turn into someone else. You ask me for my name. I give it to you and tell you I'm a writer. Are you writing down what we say? Your companion asks before walking away. You tell me you write letters to the editor under an assumed name, but that they're never printed anyway. The newspapers here ignore women, you say, and there's no public shelter. You tell me how you arrived from Chicago as a divorcee, but had to reach Toledo to find a place to stay. How your sister living here doesn't like people without money, and now you're back in Adrian on disability. You don't drive your old car far because the police look for excuses to write tickets, you say, and the judges look the other way. The government is squeezing people, you say. They care more about people in Afghanistan than they do about homeless people here. I'm an anti-war protester. I've lived in my car. I've been homeless. Nobody notices us, again you say. I ask for your name. I can't say my name. Someone will throw a rock through my window if they know what I say. The next piece I'll read is kind of on the other end of this issue of visibility and invisibility. It's about a homeless couple, who were quite visible in the community. And one member of the couple, somewhat flamboyantly so from time to time. And I'll tell you a bit about that after I read the piece. But they didn't seem as bothered as some people did by attitudes, potential negative attitudes that may have been coming their way, though I certainly don't know everything they encountered or everything they felt, but they just didn't seem as troubled by larger societal attitudes. And this piece is named after them. It's called Elvis and Shirley. In their mid-40s, they live on wheels, sleeping in a car at night, strapping yard tools to their bicycles when heading out in search of work. Yesterday, it was a 25-mile ride down to Toledo and back, through the countryside near Blissfield, where Shirley grew up, gave birth, once took a job as a waitress and cook, canning all the way, an $80 day. It was beautiful, Shirley says, twisting on one of the stools at the soup kitchen's lunch counter before jumping up to give Elvis a smooch. Cows mooing in the fields. We saw 4 deer. I love bike riding. Elvis and Shirley were a very hardworking and efficient team, and I think they earned more money, as far as I could tell, they earned more money than any of the other truly homeless people that I met there at the Daily Bread. And maybe part of that was because they were a team. But they were also very playful and affectionate pair, though Elvis did have a temper that sometimes got him kicked out of the soup kitchen. But he at least seemed to consider himself to have disposable income in spite of his situation, because he pursued a hobby which was collecting Elvis Presley memorabilia. And one time when I visited them at the car they were living in at the time, I could see all his Elvis knickknacks lined up along the front ledge and the back ledge of the car. And he wore an Elvis Presley belt buckle, and he even had the full Elvis suit with the wig. And he would sometimes come to the soup kitchen with a cassette tape of Elvis Presley music and do an impersonation. And he would do this at the county fair sometimes too. And he also had a Santa Claus suit that he would wear to the soup kitchen at Christmas and hand out donated toys to children. So this very playful and giving side also confronted my stereotypes about homelessness, because I just wouldn't have thought someone would have the energy for this. And being able to acknowledge this, see this and acknowledge this about them, helped me see them as more rounded, whole people, and helped me see the whole community there at the soup kitchen as a more rounded, whole community. And I always felt that this allowed me to, in whatever way I was trying to address people's needs and work on issues of homelessness, it helped me do that better because I could see people more completely and relate to them from my own human experience. The thing that inspired me to write this particular piece was what Shirley said, what I quoted at the end of the piece, where she talked about the beauty of the landscape and even counted how many deer they saw on this bike ride that many would have considered arduous down to Toledo and back, doing heavy work all along the way, collecting cans and doing yard work. And I was just amazed that she came back then and recollected this beauty, this time that she thought was pleasant back at the soup kitchen, and I thought that was amazing and inspiring. And so it would be things like this that inspired these pieces, quotes from somebody or something someone wore, a gesture, an expression, or something that happened at the soup kitchen or the other places we visited people, which included their campsites and tents in the woods, the cars where they lived, the library, the day shelter, or other places that they gathered. And the things that caught my attention were things that either I thought were very telling about homelessness or confronted my stereotypes about homelessness. And so as I was going along, observing and interviewing people and taking notes, and I was taking a lot of notes because that was just my style as